respected spiritual elder brothers and sisters, and then, of course, younger brothers, sisters. I'm extremely happy, great honor to participate in this sort of today seminar. I was told over 30 countries, 37 different countries, representative from different countries, 37. So, different country, different faith, different culture, different language, but we all belongs to this small blue planet. I just, you see, tease the Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor. He mentioned at the beginning, everybody you see looks very serious. So yes, looks serious. But firstly, the Vice Chancellor himself very serious. So, my usual sort of way talk, completely informal and frank. So now I follow according to your instruction. No formality, no seriousness, but simply, rather directly about our real sort of problem. So of course, those very important sort of points, the spiritual leader already sort of spoke. Now I want to, firstly, I want to categorize audience here, people whose age over 50s. We actually, including myself, actually the generation of 20th century. Then those people, the age below, say, I think 30, 20, you are the generation of 21st century. I always feel our generation, we observed the much part of 20th century. Now, my own case, I born, as you mentioned, 35, 1935. At that time, Sino-Japanese War about to start. In Europe, the potential of Second World War also growing. Eventually, the immense sort of violence in Asia, in Europe. After Second World War, Korean War, again, immense violence. I think the American side, Allied troops, very, very destructive, powerful weapons. Other side, the limitless soldiers, wave after wave. But then, the Vietnam War. So, some historians say, in 20th century, people who killed in violence through violence, over 200 millions. I always telling people, if that's such immense violence really create better shape of the world, a better world, happier world, that does not happen. So therefore, even at the beginning of this 21st century, some violence. Now, these very days, very moment, a lot of people killing in Syria, in Somalia, and some other places also. Particularly in this area, young children and women, old people, I think really suffer a lot. So these, I believe, the symptom of past 20th centuries, or say the certain concept. Through violence, you can win. You can achieve what you want. This century-old concept, you see, defeat your enemy, or destroy your enemy, is victory over yourself. Yes, in ancient time, to some extent, yes, people took, because of the people were. See, they more or less self-sufficient. So their own sort of future, their own prosperity were not depend on other. That kind of situation. And that time, according to that reality, the concept of war is perhaps some sort of relevant, maybe. Now, eventually, now this reality, as you mentioned, you see the global level, all interest, all future, heavily interdependent. So the very concept of war is outdated. So therefore, now 20th century, although there are a lot of positive development also there, but however, the 20th century really immense sort of violence. So therefore, we can say the 20th century, sadly, century of violence. Now, this century, since violence bring only suffering, pain, and also the nature environment also, you see, the violence, war, very, very sort of damaging. And then these big factories which making weapons. See, these environment issue also, you see, these are, I think, very bad. So nowadays, some company, some country produce a lot of weapon and selling, making money. Of course, of others' life. I think lack of global responsibility, a sense of global responsibility, lack of respect for others' life. So now the 20th century becomes century of violence. Now this century should be peaceful century. Now, peace does not mean no longer any problem. No. Problem not only will remain, but also increasing. I think increase. You mentioned, Vice Chancellor mentioned the population, the Bangalore. I saw some report. I think one BBC sort of report is mentioned. End of this century, world population reach 10 billions. then already, even 7 billion, already there's huge gap, rich and poor. Global level, also national level. That also, not only morally wrong, but practically also source of problem. On top of that is the corruptions, the limitation of natural resources. So problem, I think, not only remain, but also I think increase. Of course, this gap, we must reduce this gap. So that means the wealthier people should be poor. No. The poorer section of people, their living standard must improve. So we need more natural resources, right? Or these things. So there are a lot of problems. And then due to global warming, the natural disaster also increasing. So now, so with more problem, more potential of crisis, and how to keep peace? Non-violent method. I think this country, Mahatma Gandhiji, implement his freedom struggle. He fully utilized 1,000-year-old Indian tradition, ahimsa, non-violence. So perhaps at that time, some people may feel Mahatma Gandhiji's non-violent method is some kind of a passive way. Passive, kaza. Oh, it was a sign of weakness. The later, like South Africa, Nelson Mandela, I think in early part is some sort of little bit sort of militant thinking maybe, but later part, fully sort of committed non-violent way to struggle. As a result, very peacefully transited, changed. And then Bishop Tutu carry work for reconciliation. These things really, you see, they practice the non-violence, practice non-violence in their serious struggle. Then America, Martin Luther King, civil right. Again, not by weapon, but by non-violence. So now the concept of non-violence is more area now widespread. Right? So this century should be century of dialogue. It's possible. Now, in order to create this 21st century, be a peaceful century and century of dialogue, now ethics, very, very important. Now here, ethics and sciences, ethics and religions, ethics and humanities. Now here, I think many people agree with me. The ethics is not something luxurious thing. Ethics is question of our own survival. Now, science, wonderful, but nuclear weapon, these chemical weapons, immense destructive sort of weapons, you see, created by, knowledge of science. And a lot of technology really brings more fear. One occasion, I was in Deutschland. Any German here? Oh, so one time I was in West Berlin. then divided still. West German, East German, Germany. So one occasion I was in West Germany, and then I stay, I think 1 or 2 nights, very close border. I'm just a visitor from outside, just I think 1 or 2 nights. And then during night, little fear. If something happened, the front line, so those nuclear or tactical nuclear weapons, the other side, ready to shoot. Little fear. So, you see the science, I think that's unfortunately, sometimes you see, helping, I mean, no, develop or produce destructive power, destructive sort of weapons. So, scientists should have some kind of moral ethics. Actually, moral ethics is related with motivation, not just knowledge, motivation. So, every human action, human movement, whether become constructive or destructive, related with motivation. So, motivation, more compassionate motivation, sense of concern of others' well-being, sense of respect for others' life. Then every human action become ethical action. Out of extreme self-centered attitude. That's the basis of all destructive emotion. Anger, fear, all these very much related with self-centered attitude. So with that kind of motivation, then no hesitate to harm other, to exploit other, cheating other, bully other, finally killing other. Just think oneself. No concern about others' life, others' well-being. So ethic means related with mind or emotion or motivation. So scientific sort of finding, scientific development, whether be helpful to humanity or not, depend on ethics, not just knowledge, not just expertise, right? Then religion. Look, not only in past history, but even today, different religions also, you see, causing conflict, killing. Among the same religious believe like Catholic, Protestant in Northern Ireland, in some other places, conflict. Same follower of Muhammad, and same sort of practitioner of Quran. Sunni Shia conflict. And Sri Lanka, sometimes Hindus, Buddhist conflict. Nowadays, in Burma, and also I think some extent in Sri Lanka, and also even some, you see, Indonesia, conflict between Buddhist and Islam, Muslim. So these, suppose religion, suppose to bring inner peace. And the theistic religious sort of believer, they should consider the troublemaker also creation of God. One time in Jerusalem, some meeting, one Jewish scholar, one Jewish teacher, he mentioned he carried teaching in one school. And he mentioned in the class, there are Palestine students and Israelis both there. So he told at that meeting, he used to advise the student, when you met some people whom usually you feel some anger or some sort of uneasiness, then you should think that person, in the image of God. Image of God. So after some Palestine student reported to him, after we learned that, when we met some Israeli checkposts, some security personnel or police, they think that person also image of God, God's creation. So their sort of the emotion level, very, very helpful to keep calm mind, they say. So the all major religious tradition, the same potential, to develop sense of concern of others as the same human creature, right? God's creature. One time in Ladakh, one Muslim preacher, in public meeting, he mentioned, as a Islam practitioner, we must extend our love to entire creature of Allah. So all major religious tradition, talking about practice of love, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline. However, religion itself sometimes causing conflict. Again, and also, if may I say so, some religious people, a little bit corrupted people also there. I just mentioned the cardinal. Oh, I just mentioned, the present, Pope. Recently, it reported one German bishop dismissed. Isn't it? Because the bishop, very much luxurious lifestyle. And while in the church preaching contentment, suppose the teacher or preacher who preach contentment should carry simple life. So, the luxurious lifestyle, in the eyes of the Pope, see there's a big contradiction, what they believe. So he dismissed. So these things, so therefore, there are among Tibetan Buddhists also, there are corrupted Buddhists also there. I hope myself not yet corrupted. But if people, too much sort of praise, then one day I also may corrupt. So it's a self-discipline, very, very important. Sort of watching. So in any way, even religions sometimes are corrupted, and also not only corrupted, but also is causing suffering, problem, violence. So that clearly shows these religious people lacking moral principle, moral ethics. So now, question. Even religious people, sometimes unethical sort of actions happen. That clearly shows existing religious sort of faith, some cases not adequate, not effective. Religion becomes something like ceremonial things. Recently, I was in Mexico. One casa, the means casa. Pontificate University. They invited me and a large number of sort of students, and then also the number of sort of local Christian sort of priests or leaders. I told them, I expressed, sometimes, you see, it seems our faith only on dress or robes. When our robe put there, then no longer. As no longer sort of the faithful sort of red. I think genuine sort of believer. So long as the robes there. I also use just one yellow robe as a sort of monk, holy person. Then is saying some nice things. And when that put aside, then so I told her like that. So therefore, whether we believe, whether we accept religious faith or not, entirely up to individual. Once we accept, we should be serious. We should be sincere. If religious people become hypocritic, disaster. You must implement what you believe. Otherwise, people lose respect and lose faith. So sometimes it is greater sort of damage, not outside sort of force, but within the believer, not carry their teaching faithfully. Then that's real greater damage than outside sort of religious enemy. Now here, also you see, important, I think the concept of one religion, one truth. When I was in Tibet, isolated, although there are, I think, last 4 centuries, some Muslims there, even I think the 5th Dalai Lama provided land for construction of mosque in Lhasa. So they remain very peacefully. Some Muslims. I personally also, you see, known a number of these Muslims. Very nice, very, very gentle. Now some of them, you see, now settled in Srinagar. They still carry Tibetan, Buddhist culture. They are Muslim, not Buddhist, but they carry Buddhist culture. I usually make distinction, culture and faith. Like in the West, Judeo-Christian sort of cultural heritage. But among Westerners, there are some Islams, there are some, nowadays, some Buddhists also there, some Hindus also there. So in any way, you see, these, I have some sort of, some knowledge about Muslim on the level of personal friendship, and not much sort of the philosophy of these things. And then some Christians. So at that time, we a little bit isolated. So I always I always used to feel Buddhism is best, like that. Then come out, meet a lot of spiritual brothers, sisters from different traditions. Then, and particularly, you see, the serious discussion, serious exchange, you see, their own experience, their own way of practice. Then I really developed genuine admiration. That Christianity, I think that teaching really helps, I think, immensely for millions of people. I often used to telling the Christian brothers, sisters, I think, really made maximum contribution regarding education and health and all over the world. Wonderful, wonderful. All these sort of enthusiasm or willpower come from their faith. Wonderful. So now the concept of one religion, one truth. 가서다 가서래. 그리길 봐 얘들아.
It's slowly kind of vanishing.
Now, realistically speaking, through my own experience, yes, the concept of several truths, several religions, it is reality. I think this very moment, there are different sort of, I think, follow of different faith. Yeah. So within this whole, it's the reality, the several truth, several religion there. So in terms of individual person, concept of one truth, one religion is very relevant in order to strengthening your faith, single-pointed faith. But in the terms of community, the concept of several truth, several religion is very relevant. So I think India, when you got independence, your constitution based on secularism. Why? India, over 3,000 years, a multi-religious community. So when India got independence, multi-religious country. So secular is very realistic approach there. So now concept of ethics, no matter how sort of wonderful one religious tradition, it cannot be universal, universally accepted. So different religious tradition over last about 2,000 years remain, and in future also remain like that. And it is better remain different traditions, because you see, each one have their own sort of beauty, I feel. So the variety of humanity, variety of human mental disposition, we need different way of approach. So long all carry the same message, message of love, message of compassion, message of tolerance and forgiveness. So different philosophy, is different way of approach, it is necessary because of different mental disposition. So meanwhile, now out of 7 billion human beings, over 1 billion human beings non-believer. And among the believers, also you see a little bit rubbish believer also there. So now we really need another way to promote ethics. Some my Christian friend and also some Muslim friend, they little bit sort of reservation about the word of secular. See, they have this sort of impression, secular is something a little bit distance from religion, and also sometimes secular is a little bit sort of negative towards religion. That's not the case. According to Indian understanding, secular means respect all religions. No preference, this religion or that religion. Respect all religions. And also over 3,000 years, according to Indian understanding, secular also means respect non-believer. One ancient, over now 3,000 years, one ancient Indian school of thought that we call Charvaka. So ancient non-believer and ancient, because of the materialist. So rest of school of thought of Dharma, spirituality, is to criticize, argue that view. However, those people who hold that view, refer sage. Rishi means sage. So that indicates respect them. So therefore, the secular concept is respect all religions. Then, now ethics. Some my friend, again one time in Germany. I love German people, really. You are really hardworking. In spite of the whole continent, some economy sort of difficulties, your economy comparatively much sort of stable, much stronger, hardworking. And during Second World War, immense destruction. You both, I think you German and the Japanese, I think you built new nation from the ashes of war. At the same time, no sign of revenge feeling. Really, that I really sort of impressed. Many of my Japanese sort of friends, I asked them, do you still feel some negative thing towards America? Because 2 nuclear weapons, 2 nuclear bombs used on you. No. Rather, they rushing to copy American culture or American technology, these things. Germany also, when I very much impressed when Obama, during his election, it's a one short visit to Germany, to Berlin, I think over 200,000 German come, welcome him. So I really admire. You see, no traces of resentment. That's very good. So in any way, so one time, then I think still divided Germany. So on my talk, one German minister, you see, come at the beginning, sort of introduced me. So while we waiting, I sort of refer about secular ethics. No, ethics. Whether ethics should be based on religious faith or not. He say, yes, must be based on religious faith. I kept quiet. Okay. Then another occasion, my audience with late His Holiness Pope John Paul, the Polish Pope. I usually call Polish Pope. Wonderful sort of religious leader. Wonderful. So one day, because you see, we develop very close sort of feeling each other. I really admire him. I really respect him. So one day, I asked him, the moral ethics must be based on religious faith or not. Pope remained silent. One of his ministers then answered me, moral ethics must be based on religious faith. Again, I kept quiet. Now I believe, and then you see, as a result of discussions with number of scientists, many of them non-believer, but they really believe ethics. And then also, you see, those among those non-believer, I always see mentioning some sort of the Chinese Liberation Army. Really, initially, in early 50s, wonderful. they really sacrifice their own life in order to sort of help, in order to sort of save some people. Really. So there is such sort of sense of concern of others' well-being possible without faith. So that I usually call secular ethics. So secular ethics can cover those non-believers, over 1 billion. And also secular ethics can be fit in secular education field. Secular ethics based on our common experience and common sense and scientific finding. Now many top scientists, and especially brain specialists, and also health medical scientists, now they actually, you see, last I think 10, 15 years, they actually, you see, carry experiment. Our brain, and also you see how much sort of effect health, certain sort of mental attitude. So they now confirmed more compassionate mind, the health better, because compassionate mind reduce fear, because compassionate mind reduce self-centered attitude, so automatically reduce fear, distrust. So as a result, person much happier. Too much self-centered attitude, no concern about others' well-being, then always in deep inside fear. Fear brings distrust, suspicion. So then finally, the person himself or herself, deep inside feeling of loneliness. Other hand, more compassionate attitude. Respect others' right, sense of concern of others' well-being. Then that sort of inner door automatically open. Through that way, you can easily communicate. So then you get the feeling, oh, I have a lot of friends like that. So that immense sort of positive impact, effect on our health. So the secular ethics, now these things, not talking about next life, or heaven, or Buddhist, or Buddha, no, or nirvana. Simply, in order to create well-being, healthy body, you need healthy mind. And in order to have healthy family, fully trusted, fully sort of also the friendly atmosphere, you need warm-heartedness. Through that way, we can say, oh, happy society, happy humanity, ultimately related with the more warm-heartedness, sense of concern about others' well-being. Now here, I think as you mentioned, global economy and modern technology, and all these, you see now, creates oneness of the world. So now we need sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings, oneness of humanity. So that not through prayer, not through meditation, but through education, awareness. Teach from kindergarten student up to university. That I feel very strongly. Now, I think in part of education, we need some moral ethics education, not based on particular religious faith, but these something universally sort of accepted. Then, in fact, all major religious tradition based on these secular ethics. So, secular ethics through education, once we develop full conviction, the practice of love, practice of compassion is best way fulfill my own interest. Then the faith, concept of God, or concept of Buddha, Nirvana, these immense help to further develop. So secular, not at all, you see, the against or distance from religion, but actually I feel all major religious tradition based on secular ethics. So that I want to share with you. So you should, I often used to telling people, self-centered attitude really, you see, creates more anxiety, more sorosity, because of the uneasiness. So I usually used to telling the audience, when I give talk, if I too much stress, I'm Buddhist. I think moreover, I am His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama, or I am reincarnation of God of mercy. If I too much emphasis that, then automatically I may act something very special person. Then that actually, you see, brings more anxiety, more fear here. And that automatically, you see, creates myself a little bit distance from the audience. So actually, that brings lonely feeling. Actually, too much stress on these self sort of importance. Then that actually creates you yourself as a prisoner of that sort of prison. Finally, you suffer. And also, you see, if I too much sort of emphasis, I'm something very holy person, then sometimes it also, you see, may be necessary to say little hypocrisy here and there. Acting a very holy person, like that. Then I think difficult to say this holy person, the reincarnation of our Lokeshwara, now no longer gallbladder. Because of the gallbladder stones, they're finally removed. So the holy person, actually not complete human body, something missing. So we should be realistic. We should be truthful, like that. So then I can easily communicate with any person, beggar or leaders. In my mind, no differences. So I always just look human level first and talk on that level. Then second level, believer. I am Buddhist, religious harmony. The third level, I am Tibetan, concerned about Tibet. Like that. So when I received the Nobel Peace, when it announced the Nobel laureate, then many sort of media people come and ask me, what do you feel? Then I answered, nothing special. I'm just simple Buddhist monk, no more, no less. Like that. So when I stress, I'm simple Buddhist monk, another human being. Then I feel very close, anybody. So no need seriousness. Like that. So, then of course, ethics and humanity. Logically, humanity means recognize others as a human being. That does not mean just on the human physical, but human feeling. Everyone wants happy life, do not want suffering, and everyone has the right to achieve happy life. So here again, the ethics. So ethics with science, very important. Ethics with religion, actually all religion based on ethics. Now here, then ethics and humanity. Now, when we are talking about 7 billion human beings, the ethics should be secular ethics. That I want to share. If you have some disagreement, then I apologize. Thank you. So now some questions.
Myself, Sajal Sharma from School of Law, Faculty School of Law. His Holiness, I have a question for you. Why does a dominant community that is flush with pride have a tendency to convert and suppress a community which is different from it?
Again, due to, I think, firm belief, self-centered attitude. And then again, I think in old time, the individual, powerful individual, become something important. So leadership come from that way, on the basis of individual thing. Therefore, democracy, this concept, you see, comes. The real also the reasons. The world belongs to humanity, not kings or queens or leaders, or like that. One of my visit in America, I expressed, America belongs to over 300 millions of American, not Republican Party or Democratic Party. America belongs to American people. So those the country which have the kings or queens or these things, of course I respect, like the England queen or the prince, wonderful, very close my friend, like that. But the England belongs to English people, people of Great Britain, not queens or even religious leader. As a people, country should belongs to the people, not religious leader. So then, best way to govern the people by people, the elected leadership, democratic system is the best system. So now, I think education, existing modern education system, of course, I never attend one lesson about modern education. So you see, not I think appropriate, but it seems to me, existing modern education, see, very much oriented about material value. So lacking about moral ethics. So therefore, people who come from that kind of education and self-centered attitude, very much there. And then interest about money, in order to bring more money, to use power. So the individual become dominant in the society or in the community. And then here, you see, firstly, you see, we should 그래서 the public should have more education, more self-confidence, work hard. Then the country where rule of law there. You see, you should utilize your right. Should not sort of you should not spoil. Because I love that.
You should not become spoiled by the system.
Like that. So then, next question.
My name is Hilary Brown. I come from the UK. I'd like to ask what structures we can begin to develop that will allow women to be heard on an equal terms in these discussions.
Yes, that's very important. Now, I think a few lakhs years, I think perhaps 500,000 years ago, then perhaps I think we human beings, no concept of leadership, small community, and all are very equal, so work together, whatever they get, something to eat, share equally. The Marxists say original Marxism, collective sort of community. Okay. Because you see, I usually describe as far as socio-economic theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. Still, I believe that. Because Marxist economic theory emphasis equal distribution. Whereas capitalism only think about money, because of the profit. So in any way, the very early period, no concept of leadership. Then gradually population increased, and also the farming system increased. Then some sort of quarrel among them. So then leadership used to come. At that time, no rule of education. Therefore, physical strength is the main sort of quality in order to carry leadership. So male dominance come from that way. Eventually, education start. So education brings more equal men and female. But still, now, as I mentioned earlier, education generally very good, but now time come, we need more sort of effort to promote human affection, human love, genuine love, not sexy love, real love, respect other, love other, clear. So that biologically, female have more sensitive about others' pain. So regarding promotion of human affection, human genuine love, female should take more active role. That I really feel that. As scientists, they experiment. You see, two persons, one male, one female, looking one sort of movie picture, someone passing through very, very painful sort of experiences. The response, physically response, female is much stronger than male. So regarding promotion of human compassion, female should take more active role. That I feel. Okay. Do you have further argument?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes, my name's Christopher B.D. Bauer. I am from the United States, but a citizen of the world, so thank you for having me in India. This is a question for my favorite simple Buddhist monk. You were talking about earlier about hopefully we're entering the century of peace and of dealing with our problems. So how do we celebrate and overcome our problems instead of combat them? And how do I sell that idea to the nation I live in that is so happy and readily willing to arm everyone with destructive weapons?
For example, September 11th event, very shocking news. Since I know President Bush very closely, very cordial, so I wrote a letter to him. I express my sort of condolence or sadness, and in the meantime, I hope this problem handled more non-violent way. And eventually, then the name of Bin Laden come. Then Iraq crisis, these also, Saddam Hussein, these things now, happen. So motivation from president's side, I think a very, very good motivation. However, method, wrong method, violence. So at that time, I expressed a number of occasions. If dealing this problem, the terrorist sort of problem, if you handle this some wrong way, then at that time, today, 1 Bin Laden. After a few years, 10 Bin Laden. Then further, some more, 100 Bin Laden will come. Logically, if I use my sort of little sort of strength, go like that, maybe you stronger. If I'm stronger, then I can beat him. I can control physically. But that creates a lot of sort of unhappy sort of feeling here. As a result, the difficulties become increasing. If no matter what sort of disagreement, I respect him, listen, and discuss, dialogue. Then I can, overcome in mind that real solution, not physical control. So using force is simply physical control. Even one parent killed, but they are children, grandchildren, their friend. More resentment. One killing person, at least 5, 10, 100 more people who have full resentment. That's exactly now happened. So therefore, use force, violence, counter-violence, again violence, endless. Never solve the problem. So, think, common sense, and look more holistic. Then you can develop firm conviction. Violence, not at all right method, no matter what your motivation, what your goal. So then, I think for the time being, the Kasachu Samde, Kasade, like one time, I think, I'm not very sure, Franco-German unified force, isn't it? So, like that, on a regional basis, unified force not belongs to individual country. Wherever some mischievous people seriously, create some problem, then if necessary, some unified, small, mobile, effective forces use. Otherwise, each country should not have, these military forces and weapons. And automatically, once I think one time in German, German philosopher, one time expressed, now, according to today's reality, we don't need a foreign ministry and defense ministry. You should treat your sort of neighbors as a part of your own country, part of you. So consider everything as a domestic. I think that's wise. So eventually, I think we should, now I want to tell, you see, the generation of 21st century, now one of your vision should be, end of this century, world should be demilitarized world. It is possible. Once we develop firm conviction, any problem must solve through talk, through dialogue. Then weapon, no use, no work. Then demilitarized. Overall world demilitarized. But regional basis, and eventually, like United Nations, control some small forces wherever need. Then, again, I think now here, international sort of conference. So, number of occasions I express in Europe, the NATO headquarters should shift to Moscow. You see, that automatically, psychologically, immense sort of impact in millions of Russian mind. Still, now Cold War no longer there, but traces of Cold War still there. So, the NATO headquarters shift to Moscow. Then, I think, one time, I also, you see, mentioned to one Russian documentary filmmaker, I told, half sort of joke, or half teasing him, I told him, oh, Russia, in Siberia, a lot of empty land there. So your neighbor, China, very dense populated sort of nation. So bring some Chinese, let them settle. Then he say, no, like that. So this, I think, too much sort of centered, my nation. I think these are source of trouble. If we develop fully oneness of humanity, I think many problems automatically cease. So then weapons, then no use, no longer use. So that I think we should have some kind of vision, these things. Then accordingly try. Of course, we cannot demilitarize the world, but step by step, I think we should have this kind of, because of blueprints are there. First, as a blueprint in our mind. Then look, the firstly is China. I think changing people's perspective China. Last over 60 years, in reality, much changed. People's perspective China, most populated nation, very powerful nation, economically also now. No matter how sort of powerful nation, but part of the world. So world trend is democracy, freedom, free society, open society. So sooner or later, you see, people from China also have to go along that world trend, cannot go this way. So things definitely will change. So one time in Washington, both the houses talking about right, special right for most favored nation. So some people, some media people asked me what my sort of view or opinion. And I responded, oh, China, most populated nation, should have that right. And meantime, I mentioned China, the economy field, they themselves want to join world community in economy field. Now world community have the moral right And long term, it's world's interest. China should bring to mainstream of world democracy. I told that many years ago. So still I feel that. Now the China itself, now within China, firstly, I think Buddhist population, now China, over 400 millions. Now China become the greatest Buddhist populated nation. And then many intellectuals, many writers, now they really, you see, concern or their voice about freedom, open society, now growing. So things will change. Therefore, you see, we have to think the later part of this century, really peaceful century, and then demilitarized world, and then this also the gap, rich and poor, should reduce. Then I think, and whenever some disagreement happen, through talk, I think we can, through education, through awareness, we can develop that. So that I want to share with you.